in the lane, moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here today. I should have just hit go live when we started talking a couple of minutes ago. You know, Midwest versus everybody. All right. That's all I'm going to say. There's so many different connections out there that I've made in this industry, and I always love talking to people from the Midwest. But we're going to be talking about evaluating your tech stack, right? Like, how do you optimize that in today's environment? Are you fully utilizing your suite of tools at your disposal from your current vendors? And we're going to be breaking it all down. So I want to welcome Mr. Josh Hanselman on the show today. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Definitely appreciate being here, Chris. I love the intro music, by the way. It always gets me. I'm just rocking in the background as it starts. Yeah, the Midwest versus everybody. I agree. And when we get back there eventually, that'll be a good time. Maybe we'll have to catch some fishing on the lake.
Dude, let's go. Let's go. And that intro music took like 4 years to find it. You know, it's like I've switched intro music a couple of times, and I was trying to find something else. I'm like, man, you just can't find anything. And I finally paid to license some music, and I was listening, and I heard that one. I'm like, that's it. Like it literally just made sense. So, but dude, how'd you get your start in freight, man? Like, I always love asking this question, especially for first-time guests like yourself. So what brought you into this industry?
So it's funny, I didn't actually go to school for supply chain and logistics, but I grew up just around trucks. My grandfather was an owner op for Schneider. He had a nice little triangle that he ran. I would go with him when I was little. You know, always wanted to see him come home and pull the horn when he's pulling in the driveway. And then my dad had a tool and die company. He was a co-owner and general manager of it. So I was always running around the shop with forklift loading trucks, and probably before you were supposed to be able to do that. But I digress. So I was, like, logistics and supply chain was kind of in the blood for multiple generations. I went to school, got a degree, and then I spent about the next dozen years at Robinson, cutting my teeth under the snowflake. Learned a lot of things there. Switched over to the warehousing side. I did lineage logistics for cold chain warehousing for another 4 years. And then I came over to DAT in October of 22. So I've been, professionally in the game for about 20 years now. But it's been a part of my life the whole way back. So
I love that, man. I saw something recently on LinkedIn about, like, you should only do certain things unless you've done a certain role in the past. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, how many times did people look in and it's like Bill Belichick never played in the NFL, but he's probably the greatest NFL coach of all time. But I do think it does bring a different level of understanding when you've sat in that seat. And especially now, I don't know what Robinson's tech stack looked like back in the day, but I know where the tech availability was for me early on in my career. And it's like, to see the evolution of that, I think, like, to be able to draw those parallels is imperative out there, because I mean, how many people, you guys probably go through this a lot at DAT, are like, we use your load board. And you're like, do you understand what is at your disposal here? And, full transparency, up until last year, like, I wasn't really fully exercising all the tools that were at my disposal. And it is truly a game changer when you can start utilizing all of that data, because I personally think, this might be controversial to some, most transportation companies are literally just data companies. Like, you need to leverage your internal data and utilize that out there in the market.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, a lot of the conversations we have on my team, so I manage the customer solutions team, customer success for better, understanding on it. But really, it's just putting together all the dots, connecting them for people, and showing where the value really lies and how they can use the tools. So we talk about this a lot, and we run into that. Well, I didn't even know that was an option. That kind of thing comes up quite frequently. And then I'm going to just, from the biggest brokerages out there all the way down. You get those mid-market kind of brokerages, the S&B space, that sort of thing. It's like, you don't always have the resources or the people with the analytical mind to take that data that you have and really know how to leverage it. So that's where, on our side, DAT, that's kind of what I charge our people to do, is like help show them how they can connect these dots and make better business choices or be more efficient, or like just cut out the waste of what you're trying to do on a day-to-day basis. Because if you have been around the game for a long time, and like you said, the tech stack wasn't necessarily what it is today, 2 years ago, it used to be smile and dial with two phones on the sides of your head, and you're having the same conversation with two trucks until you get to a yes for one and you hang up the other, and keep going. Tools have changed a little bit since then, It's an interesting thing because, from a brokerage standpoint, really there's only so many things that you're trying to do, and everybody's trying to do them and get an edge, but the game is the game, right? You're trying to price the freight to win the freight. And then you're trying to get that freight visible to the market and find a carrier that you can match with. You got to make sure that you're vetting and onboarding that carrier, that they actually meet your qualifications and you can move with them. You got to negotiate with that carrier. So you got to know what you should be paying versus what you actually charge. And then you got to track them and make sure it delivers and get payment done, right? Like end to end, that's the brokerage game. I think in the last, 5 years specifically, but more so the last decade, like things have been moving. But in the last 5 years, there's just an explosion of tools and vendors and different things that you can use to do different subsets of all of that, right? And so I know that there was a big push, there's the AI push, there's all the different automation things that are out there. So people, tried everything. It was like, just give me a login to everything. Give me an account with every kind of vendor to try and get these things done. But I think when you peel it back, if you do the blocking and tackling of brokerage right, if you understand your place in the marketplace and how to price and what tools to use to make better decisions, and you understand how to get visibility to carriers you trust and build those relationships, like all the other tools are nice to haves and not necessarily need to haves, right? Because you're gonna get to the bottom line of what it is you have to do in brokerage a lot quicker if you just set yourself up for success from the start.
Man, I'm laughing because it's like you've been listening to this show for the entirety that I've done the show, because I talk about that so much, where it's like, again, I'm not set up with every shipper in North America. Okay. I want to be abundantly clear. But the ones that I am set up with, the ones that I am prospecting, tech stack and all of the tools that you're talking about that are like nice to haves, not necessities and requirements, are never really brought up like at all. And it's like, what do you actually need to run a brokerage out there? I'm always about the fundamentals, right? Like I am always about the blocking and tackling of freight, what I was trained to do early on in my career. And I say that because like that's literally what I've leveraged throughout my career to build books of business. And then for these last 4 years, my own company, right? And it's like, it works. Our customer relationships, they're deepening year in and year out. We're growing with our customers. So like, therefore the system is effective. But I'm out here and it's like, I see a lot of these tools and, admittedly, some of them, man, I'm like, dude, you're creating a problem that didn't exist with that tool. Like I've never even thought of that or had that situation arise in my career. Why would I pay for that product that's out there? Because, and then again, to kind of like tie it all together, we are at a very unique point in time in this industry where whether you're C.H. Robinson, who's by revenue the largest broker in North America, or you are a one-person startup who has no freight on the board at all, and you're trying to build your book of business, you are equal in terms of technology and information and data. That has never happened in the history of it, because there is so much data that is out there right now where you have all of the information. So it's like when you're out there and you're pricing freight, I don't care what anybody says, unless somebody is knowingly going in as a loss leader to get business, I would all but guarantee we're quoting within $150 of each other on every single load.
Well, it's funny you say that. As like DAT IQ, right? RateView's been around for a while. DAT IQ is the new platform. There's a lot of tools in there that, whether you're the guy in his garage that's just getting started and trying to figure it out, or you are those, billion-dollar brokerages that are out there, you're using the data as a benchmark, or you should be anyway. to just show like where you are, like where is your buying power against the marketplace? Where can you lean in, or where do you need to pull back or price differently? And we have tools on DAT IQ that would help brokers that not everybody knows about. Like if you have a RateView subscription, you have access to the benchmark analytics tool. And that's really going to show you, like if you contribute, if you're part of the RateView consortium, you can see how you're performing against RateView on any lane, on any given day, you know, where you're winning, where you're losing, where you probably have the ability to expand. And I think that that's a lot of times like people that are starting out. I did a McLeod conference, I think it was a year ago, and we were talking about it. It's like, if you're just starting out in brokerage, what's one of the things that you need to do? It's like, well, you need to know what the market is and what your target is, but then you have to benchmark yourself against what it is. Like if you buy 12% over, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on the variables and the attributes of that freight, right? It's like, how much lead time did you have? How many stops are there? Is the shipper a pain in the ass? Like all of that kind of stuff that comes into it, right? So using the rating tools, you're not wrong. It's like we think about it as like you say between $150. If you're looking at the DAT RateView rate, you've got that 25th to 75th percentile bracket on everything. It's just a bell curve. It's just that middle half, you know, the standard deviation of the bell curve in there. And you don't need a data science degree to figure that out. Is like, are we falling in this? Are we close enough to the average to make good business decisions, right? So that's where it comes from.
No, for sure. And it's like, I look at, you know, so like the partnership that we have between myself and DAT is, you know, we do a 3 times a week lane analysis out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, we do 1 drive-in, 1 reefer, 1 flatbed. It's all viewer submitted. And I'm always telling people like, listen, I'm not going to tell you guys what to quote because circumstantially, I do not know what your customer's requesting out there. But here is what most people miss. Every lane, for the most part, performs the same year over year. It is finding the commonality that happens every single year. Like every lane we're breaking down right now, Josh, at this point in the year, it shows where the price is shot up when fuel went up. But what it's also showing is when you pull July of 2025 and July of 2026, it performed the exact same way, just at a higher price point. So again, it's like it's picking out the seasonalities and it's actually reading a lane for what it is. And again, I can barely add. I've just moved a lot of freight in my career, and these lanes, like the markets are not as volatile as a lot of people want it to be. Now, circumstances are not the same.
Right.
You can always pull out a parallel, but again, you can point to a specific event that probably happened. Like you look at the wintertime and stuff, I-80, we'll use that for an example. You know exactly when a blizzard hit because rates spike. You know when hurricanes hit, you know when tornadoes hit, and you can watch it because it all performs out there. And then you just cross-reference it. Why did rates in Kansas go up? Oh, shoot, there were 7 tornadoes in that state in the last week. Okay, that's probably going to affect some pricing at that point, right? So it's like you can pull that out, but most importantly, that's not going to happen every single year. You got to find those anomalies because again, customers want consistency. All right, they want consistent capacity and consistent rates. Ironically, carriers want the exact same thing. They want consistency and they want a higher price point. Who doesn't want to make more money? But it's like at the end of the day, man, they want the exact same thing. Just when we're in the middle, man, we got to balance that out. That's all that we have to do.
Yeah, I think that point is really good because carriers and customers do both want consistency. And it comes down to their trust in you to provide them that and your relationship with them. And so knowing the market and knowing the market trends like you're talking about, you know, on the DAT platform, you can look at what it is over the last 5 years. We have rate casts. So we have a 35-day prediction and then the prediction out to 13 months, right? Those sorts of things that you can use to say, this is where it's going. That's all based on the history of where it's been too. So the seasonality is going to be the seasonality. I actually put something together on the side that was a week over week analysis that went all the way back to 2011. So I could say, you know, this week of the year, 90% of the time the rates go up, you know, DOT week, that sort of thing. All of that. If you've been around the game long enough, it's a gut feeling, right? It's tribal knowledge, but it's not. It's based in the data. The data is there. It tells you that story is true. And so knowing that and being able to see that and ride with it, I think it does come down though to your pricing to your customer is really dependent on your relationships with your carriers. Right? Because if you're going in and you're looking at it as like, well, I'm not very confident in my capacity pool for this lane. you're probably going to have to price higher because you need more wiggle room in there, right? So your customer's not going to get the consistency if you don't have the relationships on the other end to cover the freight. But if you have a market or a lane or a corridor where you got a bunch of horses and you trust in them, well, you can bring that rate to them down because you know you're going to pay more consistently and you're not going to hit those big spikes that are going to eat into your margin and make it a bad business choice to take that load. So that's the flip side of it, right? Is the relationship piece goes both ways. Is does your customer trust the pricing you're giving them because they know you're going to execute on it? And do you have the ability to execute because you have the horses in the stable that'll go out and do it?
No, and that's it, right? Like I look at it with a lot of the lanes that we run, we move a lot of secondary markets, Josh. So like 150 miles outside of major metro areas. There's a lot of manufacturing hubs that are out there. Not a lot of attention gets paid in those markets, but we move it a lot. And it's like, now, man, I know exactly what we're going to pay on what day of the week we're going to move some of these freights. And then we price it accordingly, where it's like we give our customer the exact same rate. And then some days of the week, our margin is non-existent or we're breaking even because it's like, hey, I got to move this load. It's only 700 miles, but it's got to pick today and it's got to deliver on Monday. And it's like, all right, cool. So like, we don't circumstantially work that market to where it's like, oh, hey, let's upcharge on this one. We give our customer the exact same price that comes along with it. Because again, man, I know exactly what we're going to pay our carriers. I know that we have guys out there who will take the ugly freight where it's like, hey, man, this has to pick on a Thursday. It cannot deliver to a Monday because it's a crane offload at this job site. There is no exceptions on this one. Can you take it? Yeah, man, I got you covered. Here's the rate. This is what you got to pay for it. Okay, cool. And my customer doesn't know the difference. I isolate them from those circumstances because no matter what, man, someone's going to be willing to do this freight. And then it's like, but you need to understand how these markets are going to perform out there, because when seasonalities hit, like when flatbed season ends out there, which general rule of thumb to me, when the snow starts flying, building's essentially done for the year, job sites are starting to wrap up. You need to get ahead of that. Again, that bell curve example that you were using, where it's like, dude, I can't charge peak summer rates in October. How do I read it and get ahead of it? Where it's like, yes, I'm knowingly compressing my margins for the short term, but I'm going to make that up in volume because my customer is going to come to me and be like, dude, you're $500 less than everybody else on every load right now. And it's like, all right, cool. Then you get the volume and then rates eventually catch up on the carrier side.
Yeah, that is the fun give and take, ebb and flow of brokerage that, I think it was like basically from 2023 till up until this past holiday retail season, we didn't really feel as much of a move. It was kind of stagnant for a while. And so anybody that was new to the game, we always used to joke, right, is that if you get into brokerage, you got to do at least a full cycle, like 2 years from the peaks to the valleys, right? So you're thin margins, lots of volume, or you're just crushing it because things are tight. Nobody really experienced that. So now it's coming the other way and it's like, oh my, what's happening? I think the way that you just talked about it too, it's part of the tool set that we have at DAT, that it's a flywheel effect, right? Is on the freight and analytics is what we're doing at DAT. So on the IQ side, it's rating. It's figuring out what we should pay. There's the broker spot rate. That's what is paid to the carrier. There's the shipper spot rate, which is what the shipper's charging. There's also the contract rate. So you can see, what are they awarding on an RFP basis? So how are you trying to compete? Are you trying to be part of their routing guide, or are you trying to be their primary? Like, which rate are you looking at? So knowing what your strategy is really important, because we're not going to tell you what your strategy should be. We'll just give you the tools to figure out, where to be in that. But then also is how you're competing. So if you have a lane and you're consistently over, we have a plugin directly into Premium Lane Makers, right? That says, hey, you're working with these 6 carriers on this lane, but you're buying 25% over the DAT market. Here's some other carriers that also search and post in that lane, right? And so that's a tool that often goes underutilized, and it's not a real intuitive thing that it goes from the IQ rating side straight into what carriers would be better at doing this lane than who I'm using now. But it's there, and it's just knowing that it's there so you can go out, start making those connections. And that leads into, the vetting and the onboarding. So we're rolling out the carrier management suite. which allows you to set your qualifications on, age of authority, whether their contact info has changed with the FMCSA in the last 30, 60, 90 days, their insurance minimums. So you can set that to give visibility to a different subset of carriers, and you can find the people that actually meet your qualifications and then start building the relationships with them, right? So it's all coming together on our side is to make those relationship pieces and building them and growing them easier to manage, because I think that's part of it where if you're a new person sat in the seat right now, it's kind of drinking from a fire hose, just learning what you're supposed to do anyway. But I got good at what I was doing because I had carriers that I could trust that then I built relationships with, and I fed them and they kept coming back for me. So then that made my customers feed me too. So like I said, balancing both sides.
It's so true, man. Like we move some obscure lanes, right? Like it's our carrier partnerships that make us look like absolute rock stars to our customers because no one else is bidding on this stuff. But I got guys who will go to like rural Montana, rural Colorado, like they do not care because they've been running that same region forever. And your point there, Josh, this is what's overlooked by a lot of individuals. There are carriers out there who are running lanes 24/7, 365 days out of the year. We have relationships with some carriers that at this point, they are like, to put it bluntly, they're like, I don't really care what you pay me to get back. My customer that I've been working with out of this market has been working with me for over 20 years. I need to get my trucks back. He's like, I know I'm going below market on my price. He's like, I get it. He's like, I could go out there and get a higher price point from other brokers potentially, but here's the risk that comes along with it. He's like, I know what I'm getting with your shippers and receivers. I know it's going to be a less than 2 hours loading time, less than 2 hours unloading time. He's like, I have my stuff built up. He's like, could I go out there and charge exponentially more? Yes, I could, but at what cost? Because he's like, if I don't get my trucks back to service my biggest account, I lose that and then I go bankrupt. So it's like people don't look at the data that is available to them right now, and they see, dude, it could be like El Paso to Las Vegas for a reefer, right? There's people out there who that's all that they run, but you're playing the spot market. You're posting these loads. You're getting that guy who's like, I'll take that one load for $500 more. And then that might be costing you opportunities because you're not actually working the market for what it is.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the finding those niche carriers or where it is that it makes sense, right? Like they need that partner on the other side. Because if they have their direct connection to a shipper local to them, right? The whole backhaul thing, right? Like that's what you're looking for. You're looking for where are you domiciled? Where are you trying to get back to? We have the tools to do that. And it's not just going to our platforms, right? All of these things are API functioning. Like you can make the connections, you can map them. And when you're talking about the one guy in the garage, it's a little bit harder to do that sort of thing. So maybe you are swivel chairing it. But for these, the mid-market, the SMBs, the larger brokerages, the way that they're doing it, the way they're focusing on it is plugging that right into their system. So whether it's rating, whether it's capacity updates, new trucks have been posted. Here's the matching trucks in your lane. Here's the premium lane makers version of all the carriers that have searched this lane within the last 30 days. That's all within their system. They're doing it in their TMS. So when they pull up a lane, they can see who are the people we should go to. We also have a new feature that we've updated where you can upload your onboarded carrier list to DAT. So you can say, these are the approved carriers. And then you see them when you're looking at the portal, like who's in network, who's not. So this is already a trusted carrier for me. And you have a little bit better, faith in the product then. Because we hear that, it's like, oh, well, I got a call from a DAT carrier and then I had to vet them and then I had to do all of that. But we're adding all those tools in as well, like vetting, onboarding, the carrier management suite, which is basically it's that relationship profile for you, but on the capacity side. I think those are the real game changers that are coming in the end of 26 and the beginning of 27 that are step change for DAT. That's a little bit different than what we've done in the past, is getting it to where there's a more seamless connection there. And Trucker Tools, our acquisition of Trucker Tools, is a big help on that because now we have ELD tracking locations or mobile app tracking locations, which also help with fraud alerts because if something's funky going on with their device, you can see it. I know that we made a big splash with the Convoy platform and the automation on that tool. And there was a lot of questions that came of it, but DAT automation is what we're calling this now. That one end to end, being able to have that that confined capacity group that we vet and we're looking at much more closely with a different kind of process. We're blending all of that, what Trucker Tools did really well and what Convoy did really well, into DAT also. So when you're posting freight to get visibility on DAT1, you're able to set checks and balances for who sees it and who do I want to work with? Do I want to set it to just an in-network group of carriers so I know I already work with them? Because Chris, one thing that always comes up, and I've had the conversations whether you are the largest brokerages in the world or the couple dudes just sitting in their living room with a laptop, is the need for the smaller ones to get visibility to their loads on DAT, being the largest load board, is readily apparent. Like they have to get their freight out there somewhere. But the bigger ones is, why would we want to post to DAT when I have my own platform, I have my own system, I have my own app? When it comes down to, the carriers don't want to have 47 apps on their phone to try and go and find freight. Like, yeah, if you're their trusted broker and you have a lane that they normally do, they're going to call you first and they're going to check. But if you don't have that load, they're not twiddling their thumbs waiting around. They got business. They got to get back to their customer that has their other load, like you were saying. So they're going to go and they're going to look at the load boards. And if you're posting on DAT and then they see your load that they normally run also on DAT, of course they're going to call you. And we have book now functionality that can be set up now so they can just book it at the rate that's posted. All those connections can be made via API also. And so there's things to just streamline it and make it easier, but it's all in the name of keeping those relationships going and churning and building so that you can branch out from what you do really, really well and keep finding new areas to grow your business. And that's kind of how you put the flywheel together, right?
Yeah. I might be in the minority of being from the old school mentality of brokering freight to the acceptance that like our job can be like 95% automated. Like legitimately, because I know there's not a lot, like there's a lot of people out there who think like, oh, my way of doing things is just like, I'm like, dude, AI is here. And like, it's funny is I look at the Convoy platform, for example. They got that when that business was in business, they got a lot of heat for what they were doing out there. Same thing with like Uber Freight and stuff like that.
Right.
I've always looked at it as like, dude, that's what is like legit. Like that is the way things are going to be one day, and because eventually the driver population is going to age out. I'm not celebrating anybody getting older, but like, let's call it what it is. You guys, you will eventually not be able to work. And then there will be a demographic of drivers who want to operate inside of an app. They grew up doing that. And I'm not naive to think that my way of doing things that I did for the last 15 years, like the way that I used to do it for the last 15 years is not going to get it done in the next 15 years, probably not in the next 5 years. So it's like, you have to evolve out there. And then again, I look at it, how can I do more with less, right? Like, how can I build a system where I can 10x my output? I don't know any sales rep or any entrepreneur out there who does not want to increase their business. So it's like, this is where we are now, where it's like with the right tools at your disposal, you can do so much more work out there. And then on top of it, you need to have stuff being monitored in the background. You need like, hey, if this carrier is no longer a good fit, you need that notification to pull them off of your freight and not book them again. I.e., look at every single lawsuit that's being thrown out there right now. It's only going to get worse. And I just had this conversation with a prospect of mine. They're like, how often do you monitor your carriers and how fast do you pull them out of your network if you have noticed any drop in any of their scores? That's a legitimate question now. That never was brought up in the entirety of my career up until now.
Yeah, that is a huge part of it. Obviously, Montgomery ruling. I don't know if it necessarily changed the way a lot of the larger ones were looking at it, but it definitely made you more hesitant to reduce your level of who you're going to work with, right? It's like previously it's like, oh, yeah, I know we're looking for X, Y, and Z to meet this carrier profile to get this load booked, but we're not having any luck, so we're going to be a little lax. There is no lax anymore. Lax doesn't exist. It's not a thing.
That's the best way.
With the DAT, the way we're doing the carrier management suite too, is like having all those flags, right? Is like a name change happened in the last, or an address change or a phone number change or email change happened in the last 30 days. It's like, okay, we got to check this. So all of that sort of thing being on there, the constant monitoring. And I mean, tracking has been a thing that customers have been requesting for a while, but it's, you want to know that the tools that you're using are actually doing that and working the right way. So we have out of route monitoring, all the different fraud alerts that come on the trucker tool side. But I think it's putting that together and seeing like, okay, this is a carrier that I know and I trust, and I've got good rates with them, and their on-time percentages are great. And okay, a flag just came up. What do I do about it? You have to go and you have to investigate that, do your due diligence. It's a requirement, right? Just to make sure. But we have the tools in place now that make that possible, so you can have your in-network freight. One of the things you said at the beginning of that last statement too is that, you know, the carrier community is aging out. So like my grandfather was a truck driver. He would have never messed with these apps. It wouldn't have happened. But we're getting to a point where, yeah, that's the thing. That's going to be the way it goes. That doesn't mean you don't have a relationship with these people. It's just the subject of your conversations with them has changed. So maybe you're doing a weekly or a bi-weekly or a monthly check-in with your top 50 carriers. You're just talking to them about their life and what's going on. And you're feeding them through an app. You're feeding them through a platform. So you not have to send an email to ask them if they want the load, or text them if they want the load, or call them to ask them if they want the load. You know they want the load. You guys have already established that. So you get to talk to them about other things. And that's what keeps them coming back to you. That's the relationship base that you get to build. I think all of those things combined is just what stands out to me is being able to roll with the change of how the industry works, but understanding that the blocking and the tackling, like we talked about at the beginning, that doesn't change. It's still pricing the freight and finding somebody to move the freight. And you have to be aware of the risks on both sides and mitigate them as much as possible. Like that's what we're doing, honestly.
So true, Josh. So true, man. I loved having you on. I'm having you back on whether you want it or not. You're coming back.
Sure. I'm happy to do it.
Talk about on here, man. But dude, how does anybody reach out to you, connect with you, find out more about what you got going on?
Yeah, so my email is just josh.hanselman@DAT. My team partners up with all of the sales reps. So if you are a DAT customer and you have a sales rep, I'm the manager of the team that works on the solution side of that. So customer success. You can go to the DAT website that I know, Chris, you post and have in the link all the time. So just check out the different products out there. But if you want to learn about anything new, like the Carrier Management Suite, ShipperSpot, any of the stuff we talked about today, please drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to walk through it with you or connect you with one of the team members that can.
No, I love it. Josh, thank you so much. And, you know, you guys, I've literally used DAT throughout the entirety of my career. Yes, they're a partner of mine on the show, but I use them every single day inside of my brokerage. If you guys have any questions that you want to talk to somebody who uses the product every single day, hit me up. I will gladly walk you guys through a lot of this stuff because it is as simple as Josh is making it sound. It's just utilizing your experience and industry insight to leverage this information to maximize your output and results out there. But Josh, thank you so much for your time. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Hey, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane move.